Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to jump way back in time to the 4th century. We're diving into this incredible text to unpack a really powerful metaphor at the heart of Christian baptism. We're going to see how this ancient ritual was understood not as just, a simple washing, but as this profound reenactment of death and rebirth. So where do we start? Well, let's kick things off with a really simple, direct objection that the author himself addresses right at the beginning. His opponents were basically asking, look, if we're just being baptized into water, why are we giving it this divine status? It's a very practical, almost cynical question, but it sets the stage for a much, much deeper answer. So here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to follow the author's logic, step by step. We'll start with that simple objection, then look at the huge problem baptism is supposed to solve. After that, we'll get into the core metaphor of imitating death and rebirth, explore the specific roles of water and the Spirit, and finally, see what kind of life is supposed to follow. Okay, let's dive right into this first section, because it really frames the entire explanation. And what I love is that the author doesn't shy away from criticism, he tackles it head on. And there it is. That's the core of the argument against him. The critics are basically saying, hey, hold on a second, it's just water. It's a created thing, part of nature. To elevate it to the level of the divine, that just seems wrong. It's a challenge that comes from a very literal, surface-level reading of the ritual, and the author uses it as the perfect springboard to reveal something way richer. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of getting bogged down in an argument about water, the author completely pivots to a much, much bigger picture. He basically says you're missing the entire point if you're only focused on the physical element. See, he argues that we're asking the wrong question entirely. This whole thing isn't about the water. It's an answer to a fundamental human problem, this feeling of alienation from God, a separation caused by disobedience. He claims the entire point of God's plan was to create a path back, a recall from the fall. And this just lays out the stakes perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the old life, this state of alienation and disobedience. But on the other, the goal of the new life, restored communion, being brought back into the family. Baptism is presented as the very mechanism that makes this incredible transition possible. So, if the whole point is to move from an old life to a new one, how do you actually do that? You can't just flip a switch, right? This brings us to the absolute core metaphor of the whole explanation. So get this. The text says that true change, this perfection of life, comes through an imitation of Christ. But, and this is the key, it's not just about imitating his life, being kind or humble. The idea is way more radical. It says you have to participate in a likeness of his actual death and resurrection to truly begin again. So how does this imitation actually happen? Well, it's laid out as this clear 3-part process. First, you have to cut the cord. You sever the connection to your old way of living. Second, you symbolically enter a tomb by going down into the water. And third, you come up to begin a totally new life, a regeneration. This quote just nails it. Death, in this symbolic way, isn't just an ending. It's the mediator, the thing that stands in the middle. It's the pause, that clean break that makes a real new beginning possible. Without this symbolic death, you're just tweaking the old life, not starting a new one. Okay, so now that we've established this really powerful metaphor of death and rebirth, we can finally understand the specific role of water in this whole spiritual drama. It's not just some random element, it has a very specific job. And here it is, the direct answer to that initial objection. The water itself isn't some magical agent of change. Its purpose is symbolic. It fulfills the image of death. When the body goes under the water, it's as if it's being buried. The water is acting as a tomb, signifying the absolute end of that old life. But wait, if water represents death and burial, where does the new life come from? That's only half the equation, right? This brings us to the second, absolutely essential piece of the puzzle. This is where the Spirit comes in. It's presented as the active, life-giving force. While the water provides the tomb, the Spirit provides the power for resurrection. It pours in the quickening power, renewing the soul, and bringing it back from the deadness of sin to a brand new, original life. And that just brings it all together so perfectly. Being born again needs both. Water and Spirit have these distinct but totally inseparable roles. Death happens in the water, new life is created through the Spirit. And just like that, the initial objection that it's just about water, it's completely resolved.
So we've gone through a symbolic death and a spiritual rebirth. The big question is, so what? What does this profound transformation actually accomplish? What's the end result?
Well, the results described here they're nothing short of a complete restoration of everything. It's a return to paradise, a renewed status as adopted children, the freedom to actually call God Father, and a share in eternal glory. It's not just about a change in behavior, it's a fundamental change in your identity and your destiny.
This is such a powerful way to frame it. The new life that you live after baptism, it's described as a forecast of the eternal life to come. It's not about just waiting for some future reward. It's about beginning to live in that future reality, right here and now.
And so this ancient text leaves us with a really provocative thought. It presents baptism not just as a one-time event, but as the very beginning of a new kind of existence, a preview of a resurrected life. And it forces us to ask, if this powerful symbol is meant to kickstart such a profound change, how does that forecast actually connect to our real lived experience today?